highlighted
Gavin on
the
the
two
team.
Good evening and welcome to tonight's April 6, 2026 City Council meeting. I will first await a motion to leave the non-public and to see the minutes, the meeting minutes of that non-public session.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? June, will you please take the roll?
Yes, Mayor. Mayor McEachran.
Here.
Assistant Mayor Kelly is absent. Councillor Cook.
Here.
Councillor Tabor.
Here.
Councillor Blaylock.
Present.
Councillor Bagley.
Here.
Councillor Moreau.
Here.
Councillor Flynn.
Here.
Councillor Hopkins.
Here.
Besides Assistant Mayor, all present.
Thank you, June. Before we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and we have special guests for that, I'd ask that we all continue to keep our brave servicemen and women in our hearts, especially those of the 157th Refueling Wing, and hope for a speedy and safe return for all. Now it is my pleasure to ask the Cub Scouts of Local Pack 166 to come and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I had the honor to show them around City Hall a week or two ago. I didn't get into the tunnel, so we got to go back and do it again in a future date. But they are they're better than, I think I can speak for Councilor Blaylock, but I flamed out at Weeblos. But this is, they are about to have their crossover become scouts. They're at the Arrow of Light stage, and so they'll have their ceremony this coming Saturday. Incredibly grateful that I got to pin their citizenship badges on there. I think that, I don't know if that pushed them over the edge or not, or if they had already gotten enough. Seemed like a crew that had already gotten plenty. But it was just an awesome opportunity to have them within City Hall asking incredible questions, and questions that, you know, you don't get to spend as much time thinking about because we're so focused on budgets and things, but talking about government, the importance of that, and coming together as a community. So it would be my honor to welcome Cub Scouts from Local Pack 166 to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. You got to get on the camera, guys.
Right here.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good job, guys.
My chair.
Thank you again. Let's clap them out as they leave. All right, we have a number of proclamations before we get to public comment. I'd first ask Councillor Cook to read our, oh no, we're going different order than that, so I got to find which one. We will start with Clean Water Week, which I will read. And I think Peter Rice, as he always is here to accept this. Whereas nationally, Clean Water Week 2026 provides a vital opportunity for utilities, public officials, and water sector leaders to advocate for federal implementation of major water infrastructure investments, the EPA's evolving regulatory agenda, and the policy opportunities shaping the sector. And whereas here in New Hampshire, the New Hampshire Water Pollution Control Association takes advantage of Clean Water Week 2026 to focus on the journey of water under the banner From Rain to Drain and Back Again. And whereas the state of New Hampshire is home to approximately 70 wastewater treatment facilities operating 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, to treat sewage and protect our rivers, lakes, and coastal waters from pollution, from Lake Winnipesaukee in the Lakes region to the Connecticut River along our western border to the Great Bay, the Piscataqua River, and the Atlantic Ocean here on the seacoast. clean water is essential to New Hampshire's environment, economy, and quality of life. And whereas wastewater treatment facilities, sewer collection systems, and our dedicated DPW professionals who operate and maintain them provide an essential public service to Greater Portsmouth every day, safeguarding our public health and protecting our environment. And whereas here in Portsmouth, Clean Water Week gives our DPW wastewater team a unique opportunity to showcase our 2 treatment facilities with open house events so the community can better understand the sewer systems and public services we rely on but rarely see. These events at Pease on April 16th and Pierce Island on April 17th provide rare access to critical infrastructure, giving the public a behind-the-scenes look the daily operations of treatment facilities, our ongoing infrastructure improvements, and local efforts to maintain and upgrade these vital systems. And whereas for our facilities and the members of our community, participating in Clean Water Week promotes broader public engagement in water protection and conservation efforts at both the local and statewide levels. Now, therefore, I, Daigle McEachern, Mayor of the City of Portsmouth, on behalf of the members of the City Council and citizens of Portsmouth, do hereby proclaim April 12th to the 18th, 2026 as Clean Water Week in Portsmouth, and urge all Portsmouth citizens to get to know the work of the Water, Wastewater, Stormwater Division and its engagement in proactive organizations protecting drinking water sources, distribution systems, staff, and plans for the future. Given with my hand and the seal of the City of Portsmouth on this 6th day of April, 2026. Peter. We celebrate you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, not just this one week, but we have. Next, we have Councillor Cook reading a proclamation on Poetry Month.
Thank you, Your Honor. A proclamation. Whereas the Portsmouth Poet Laureate Program, in collaboration with the city's Arts and Cultural Commission, have created the Public Poetry Project by encouraging residents of all ages to submit their original poems for the Public Poetry Project. And whereas the Public Poetry Project is now displaying more than 50 poems in the windows of dozens of downtown storefronts and offices for the entire month of April, which is National Poetry Month. And whereas National Poetry Month is celebrating its 30th anniversary this April, having become the largest literary celebration in the world, with tens of millions of readers, students, K-12 teachers, librarians, booksellers, literary event curators, publishers, families, and poets marking this important place of poetry in our lives. And whereas here in Portsmouth, the Portsmouth Poet Laureate Program and the Portsmouth Arts and Cultural Commission are dedicated to building community through poetry and the arts. Now, therefore, I, Kate Cook, on behalf of Daigle McEachern, Mayor of the City of Portsmouth, and on behalf of the members of the City Council and citizens of Portsmouth, do hereby proclaim April 2026 as Poetry Month in Portsmouth, and urge all Portsmouth citizens to take time to stop when they are downtown throughout the month and read the poetry displayed in the windows of our businesses to appreciate the vibrant arts, cultural, and history made visible in our streetscape. Given with the Mayor's hand and the seal of the Portsmouth on this 6th day of April, 2026. Yes, we have a few guests from the Poet Laureate Program coming up.
Would you like to come up or we can come down? You don't want to be in it? If you're just tuning in to a City Council meeting for the first time, we typically do not have 4 proclamations, but April is a popular month. Next, we have a Public Safety Telecommunications Week. Whereas the President and Congress of the United States have designated the week of April 12th through April 18th, 2026 as National Public Safety Telecommunications Week. And whereas the public safety dispatchers of the Portsmouth Police Department play an essential role, working side by side with our police officers, firefighters, and EMTs in responding to emergencies and protecting public safety. And whereas it is important that all citizens understand the weighty duties and responsibilities, as well as the long hours required of public safety dispatchers in maintaining a 24/7 operation. And whereas the public safety dispatchers of Portsmouth Police Department unceasingly provide a vital public service to our community. Now, therefore, I, Daigle McCachran, Mayor of the City of Portsmouth, on behalf of the members of the City Council, do hereby call upon citizens of Portsmouth and upon all patriotic, civic, and educational organizations to observe the week of April 12th to April 18th, 2026 as National Public Safety Telecommunications Week in Portsmouth, with appropriate expressions and observances to thank public safety dispatchers for their contributions to the health and safety of our community. Given with my hand and the seal of the City of Portsmouth on this 6th day of April, 2026.
I think we have, is Jason Cohen of the police department here?
See Jason.
Okay.
We'll get it to him.
All right, we will get it to Jason. He probably just didn't want the photo op, understandably. Okay, next, or finally, we have a proclamation declaring Sexual Assault Awareness Month. Whereas April was declared National Sexual Assault Awareness Month in 2001 as an opportunity to listen to and honor survivors in our community and show those impacted by sexual violence that they are not alone. Sexual assault happens in every community, with 44% of women and about 25% of all men experiencing some form of sexual violence in their lifetimes. And whereas sexual assault directly affects people regardless of age, socioeconomic status, sexual orientation, gender, race, religion, or nationality, and can upend the lives of victims and their families, leading to depression, anxiety, PTSD, and other physical and emotional wounds. And whereas the Violence Against Women Act became federal law in 1994 and was reauthorized in 2000, 2005, 2013, and 2022 to strengthen rape prevention education, crisis center support, training for law enforcement and frontline workers, and to provide additional resources to victims. And whereas the City of Portsmouth has employed a victim witness advocate since 1999 with funding from the Violence Against Women Act to work with the police department, the Portsmouth Police Department, to support victims of sexual assault. And whereas one of the greatest successes of the Violence Against Women Act is its emphasis on having a coordinated community response to domestic violence, sex dating violence, sexual assault, and stalking, courts, law enforcement, prosecutors, victim services, and the private bar currently work together in a coordinated effort that did not exist before at the state and local levels. And whereas the city works with Haven, one of 12 crisis centers across the state, to provide 24/7 support to victims of sexual assault, domestic violence, sexual harassment, and stalking, and reminds everyone that confidential local help is available 24 hours a day at the Haven Violence Prevention and Support Hotline at 603-994-SAFE. And whereas the City of Portsmouth and our legal and police departments stand with all New Hampshire prosecutors as sentry on the front lines, advocating on behalf of victims of sexual assault. Now, therefore, I, Daigle McCachran, Mayor of the City of Portsmouth, on behalf of the members of the City Council and citizens of Portsmouth, do hereby proclaim April 2026 in Portsmouth as Sexual Assault Awareness Month and call upon our citizens to come together to reaffirm our commitment to ending sexual assault and supporting survivors. Given with my hand and the seal of the City of Portsmouth on this 6th day of April 2026.
I think we have Ryan Goldman.
Balance out the tall guys.
Before we get to public comment, I just wanted to thank the Scatterquah Savings Bank for the very kind donation. I'm sure is it in here, or was it in last meetings? But for the lunch for Student Government Day, very much appreciated. Councilor Blaylock?
I'd just like to mention that the president of Piscataqua Bank, Ben Wheeler, was formerly the mayor on Student Government Day in high school. So it just shows the connection and, shows that it produces good quality people.
That's awesome. Well, thanks again, Piscataqua. With that, we will open it up, public comment. First up is Deborah Van Patten on Frankie.
Mayor, City Manager, my name is Deborah Van Patten. I live at 109 Hillside Drive. In the spirit of public safety, I'm going to read from parts of the fire department's report from an incident that happened behind the high school. Dispatch for and this happened on Saturday, February 28th. We dispatched for a laceration and electrocution of a woman and a dog. Upon arrival, we found the woman with a hand injury and a dog on the ground, apparently dead. As we approached and interviewed the woman, it was determined that she and 2 dogs were exposed to an unknown electrical source, resulting in the death of one of the dogs. School department maintenance people were requested, Eversource was requested, and the electrical inspector for the city was requested. After the removal of the dog, the ground was metered where the dog had been laying. There was electricity found to be 68 volts. That was in the groundwater that killed my dog. The area was sectioned off with wooden barriers and caution tape. City electrical inspector was made aware via phone. I'm here tonight to ask the city to do the right thing in honor of Frank, and ask yourselves, how would you feel if you were out walking your dog and you saw it electrocuted in front of you? So I'm going to ask the council to consider a donation to the SPCA in Frank's honor. They have a wonderful vet care clinic that offers low cost and no cost care to owned animals. And I'm hoping that I get a response from someone. This happened on February 28th, and I didn't hear from a single person. And I'm willing to bet some of you already know that this happened behind the high school, and no one reached out to me. So I'm hoping that we can put common decency above what I think could be brewing, which is who's liable and some legal action taken. That's not really who I am or what I want. But I think you need to be aware that this happened and try and do something about it. Just the common decency. Like, where do I live? That no one reached out to me. No one said a word. My dog died and possibly saved some human beings from behind the high school. If this is supposed to go under consideration, what I'd like from the council is a timeline for consideration and who will reach out to me and when will they reach out to me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deborah. Next, we have Monique Shevlin in support for Frankie. Do you wish to, it's tough to follow that?
I hadn't really planned to speak, but I did want to I'm Monique Shevlin, by the way, resident of Portsmouth. I did want to lend my moral and emotional support to Deborah and to honor Frank's memory. And really to, I think, reiterate what Deborah said about the life of her dog taken really saved a human being's life, potentially, because that's on public school grounds. And that could have been devastating to a student, faculty member, staff member. So if you could add that to your consideration as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Meg. We have Andrew Holdsworth on the support for a Portsmouth Cafe and Custodial Workers contract.
Thank you. Hello and good evening, Portsmouth City Councilors, residents, and other concerned members of our community. My name is Andrew Holdsworth. I work at the Portsmouth Public Library and am a current president of the Local 1386, which is part of AFSCME, the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, which is the union organization that represents Portsmouth's DPW workers, library workers, as well as cafe and custodial staff at the schools. I'm in front of you today to speak in favor of passing the employment contract with the cafe and custodial workers in the schools. This contract has been a long time coming, and the city, myself, and the members have taken their time to make sure that the contract aligns with member, school, and budgetary needs. Part of that is ensuring that our members have access to health insurance that also doesn't break the bank for either the city or the members. I've seen some chatter online about how this contract locks in school care for 3 years and that we wouldn't be able to move off of the plan should it become untenable. This is incorrect. Within the same article cited as locking us into school care, Article 25 on page 5 of the contract, we have also built in language that allows the city to shop for comparable insurance coverage. This was an important addition that not only allows the city to serve this contract to the best of their ability, it also ensures no break in coverage from a sudden exodus from school care, such as one councilor has voted for. Also of note, Dissent has stated that this would lock us in for 3 years, but this contract is only in effect until June 2028, and it is late to be approved. I speak for my members when I fervently implore you to approve this contract. These people take care of our children every single day. They're with them for most of their daylight hours, and they provide them with food and a safe and clean place to exist. I think it's time that we show them that we care about them as much as they care about our schools and our children. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Next up, we have, so I'm just going to go through, they're in order, and I understand that everybody's, but just want to keep it on. There's a lot of people here to speak about Frankie, so I'm just going to go through, find those, and then we're going to go back to the ones that I've missed, and that seems like a better thing to do. So next up, we have Barbara McMillan on Frankie.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor McEachran and councilors. I am Barbara McMillan. I live at 84 Hillside Drive, and I'm here tonight to speak on behalf of for Deb. I wanted to say that living on Hillside Drive, the high school is your neighbor, and we are the neighbor to the high school. And I feel like Frankie was an awesome dog, and as Deb mentioned, I feel like she may have been a bit of a hero protecting the children and the neighbors who would end up at the school. I don't know the details, and I want to recognize that there might be some barriers to the city acknowledging what happened, but if possible, it could be so supportive to consider Deb's request and to maybe think outside the box and to do something to acknowledge this tragedy. Just to somehow say, we are there for you, and we are so sorry about your loss. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Next is Karen Jacoby.
Good evening, Mayor McEachran and members of the City Council. My name is Karen Jacoby, and I'm at 35 Wybird Street, Portsmouth, New Hampshire, obviously. And
I'm Ann Mordecai, 26 Sewell Road.
Nancy LaHoo at 53 Wyburg.
Jen Paxton, 225 Hillside Drive.
and we're all here in support of Deborah. We heard her pain after this incident happened, and we're here just to support her and to really implore you to somehow recognize what happened. It's not about liability. It's about responding to somebody who was injured on our property and telling them that you're aware of it and that we care for them. That's what we're asking.
I'm not even sure if she knows if it's been fixed yet. And nobody has gotten back to her.
Is there anybody else that would like to speak, either here or on Zoom, on this? Caroline? You can?
Hello.
Sure. We'll just let Caroline and then we'll come right back. Are you speaking on Frankie?
Yes.
Okay, we'll go to Caroline and then just come back to you.
Okay.
Because she's also speaking on Frankie.
Hi, Mayor and the rest of the council. It's Caroline Turk, and I live at 152 Hillside Drive. Just to reiterate what Deb spoke about, nobody should be in a position where they are out walking their dog and they are electrocuted. Nobody should be in a position where they're out walking and are electrocuted. My dog was also with Deb when it happened and sustained an electrocution. And equally, as Deb spoke about, nobody has reached out to us. It's such a small, small town, an amazing place to live, and something so tragic has happened, and there's been no contact from anybody. And also, to the point of the lady that just spoke, has whatever happened been rectified so that it doesn't happen to anybody else? Thank you.
Thank you, Caroline.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Olivia Paxton. I lived at 225 Hillside Drive for most of my life. I went to Portsmouth High School. My family actually has the sibling of Frankie, our dog Pearl, and it's been really hard the last month knowing that there's no way we can convey to her that she's never going to get to play with her sibling ever again. And as a lifelong resident of Portsmouth and someone who went to the high school, I know how often kids play near the high school, and it just seems ridiculous that I didn't see anything go through the news or talked about. I only heard about this through hearsay until now, so thanks.
Thank you. So, yep.
Sorry, I'm a little bit emotional. My name is Peter. I'm a resident of Portsmouth, and Frankie was my dog's best friend. And they played almost every single day. But what I wanted to say, just to add to the discussion, because I think you're all probably decent human beings, and this feels terrible also inside of your hearts. And you feel the pain of another human's tragedy and loss, but you're stuck in a system, in a bureaucracy, in a government that has only certain knobs and levers that you can turn and twist to figure out how to deal with that situation and turn that feeling in your hearts into an action. And I just hope you find that way.
Hey, Chris.
Mayor, I know we don't normally.
Yeah, well, I'm going to respond in this case, and this is usually not a discussion. This is public comment, a chance to speak at your government, and it seems, I guess, fitting for us to take those rules that try to create a sense of civility among us and set them aside just for a moment, because of the fact that it's these rules that are are holding us from being more human than we need to be at this time. So I want to say I'm incredibly sorry, Deborah, for your loss. Those at home you haven't been able to see, but she passed out pictures of Frankie, and I don't know if this will come up on the TV, but she was a really good-looking pup. And it's tough to look at Frankie and the eyes and that mouth after a long walk and not recognize what we all recognize in our love for dogs, is that they are our companions in good times and in bad. And I want to say on behalf of the city how truly sorry I am for your loss, how we are all incredibly sad for this. And words don't do that justice, and I understand that. I understand that this is something that can't come back. And I know that every time that my dog jumps into my bed. I know that every time that he gets excited, or I have another dog too who's I'm warming up to, but it doesn't like me as much as the first pup. But I know that feeling. And I just, we will need to meet probably. I guess if this is into litigation, I hope we can avoid that. I will be making a donation in Frankie's honor. I would urge, anything that comes to the city, that we would be doing the thing that seems to be the best outcome for us here. I mean, us as a community, all living together under a government that tries to, protect all of our rights. But I understand that that's a very shallow thing, or it doesn't meet the moment of that. But there were some questions on immediately the power was cut, so those things are nuances, and we can put out a larger statement so that gets into more of the press. But I really just want this to be about, or my statement right here to you, Deborah, is we are incredibly sorry about this accident that occurred. I agree with you, as you shared with me on the night at Jimmy's, that Frankie is a hero, that if not for this accident, a child, a human, no less loved by you, but something else far more tragic could have occurred. And the tragedy is that our dogs willingly go into danger, recognized or not, for us on a daily basis to make our lives better. And I'm just really sad and honestly heartbroken that you're here today in this situation, feeling as though that the city that you live in doesn't represent you in a way that it needs to at this time. So for that, I'm sorry. For the loss of Frank, I'm sorry, and I just want to send as much love and support to you, and we'll be personally donating, and I would expect to see I'm hopeful that the right thing can come out of this, and I expect it to, so we'll get about making it so.
Your Honor,
I really hope that the legality of what starts to bubble up around an incident like this doesn't stand in the way of our doing the right thing. Where do I live? Do you know what I mean? Like, do I have to question my community that no one reached out to me? I mean, I thank you, Mayor, for your comments, but she saved lives, and I just really want people to understand that. She was my lifeline. We were going to grow old together. And I just hope that we can do the right thing and rise above any of the litigation that people feel might be attached with acknowledging that this accident happened behind the high school. On the back of the handouts is the full narrative from the fire department, along with the name of the woman who's in charge of philanthropy at the SPCA. And I've already spoken to her in case we want to make a donation from the city in Frank's honor. You have that information. Thank you.
Mayor.
Sure.
Thank you, Mayor.
I think it's important to own up to your mistakes. And this was a mistake. This was my fault. And I want to apologize to you. It was my understanding when this came across my desk that the case had been referred to Primex, and that Primex, the risk pool insurer for the city, had been in touch with you. That was my understanding. Obviously, had I dug a little deeper, had I worked a little harder, I would have found that that is incorrect. The superintendent really wanted to personally reach out to you, and again, I thought this was being handled elsewhere, and so I advised him against it. It was a mistake. Sincerely, I apologize. I don't sit up here. I don't do this job to yield this kind of result. I know that this can't fix what happened, and I am sorry.
Councilor Bagley?
Thank you, Mayor. I just feel necessary to speak because two of my next door neighbors who my dogs play with their dogs spoke tonight, and I have a special affinity for the Hillside Drive neighborhood because of the sidewalk project we did there a couple years ago, and I had no idea any of this had happened. I don't know if I just wasn't reading the right communications or not, but this is the first I'm hearing of it.
Same.
No one knew about this. No one, friends said to me, where was this listed? I looked everywhere. I looked on the police reports, I looked fire. I didn't see this anywhere. And I also didn't get a final resolve. I heard bits and pieces that there was some underground cable that connected the two parking lot lamps, and that had broken, and it fed electricity into the groundwater. And so when Frank hit the puddle, she got electrocuted. That was all I heard. So I don't know. Someone said to me, Eversource only brings power up to the high school, and then from the high school in to the buildings and beyond is a different source. When I went over there, I saw the barricades. I saw something, some electrical service company was digging up the ground and doing work back there. I wasn't really sure if I could go and get what their diagnostic was finally on this whole situation, but I do know that there was a lot of digging behind the high school after this happened. But again, no one reached out to me. No one told me how it happened or what had happened. I only heard third hand this something about the cable underground feeding electricity into the groundwater. So,
Councilor Blaylock?
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm so sorry for your loss. I grew up over on Greenleaf Ave, so I consider your neighborhood my neighborhood. I probably would have played with your dog, if I still lived there. But I'm so sorry. This is the first time I'm hearing about this. I don't think most of us heard this before.
yeah. I thought there was some kind of internal messaging or sharing of this information, and that maybe it had been bumped up to legal or finance, and people were starting to ask me, well, who's liable? And I'm not a litigious human being. I don't need money. I need an acknowledgement that this happened and that someone is willing to honor her by giving a donation to the SPCA. Unless you have a better solution or alternative, I'm open to suggestions, but at this point, that's the best I can come up with. So again, the philanthropic person's contact is on the back of that picture, and if you want to reach out to her and make arrangements. I don't know how it behind the scene works for you all, whether there's a mechanism by which we can do that, but I feel all of you very attentively around this issue, and I do appreciate that very much. Thank you.
You're on.
Yeah, Councilor Tabor.
Would you, chairing this meeting, consider it appropriate if we suspended? I made a motion to suspend the rules to consider discussing a donation to the SPCA in memory of Frankie.
Second.
Certainly. All in favor?
Aye.
I'd propose to the council a resolution that the council would wish the city to make a donation in memory of Frankie to the New Hampshire SPCA. The amount to be determined by discussions with Deborah Van Patten.
Second.
Any discussion?
You're-
We are in a public meeting, so I would imagine that we'll probably have a report on this. But certainly, this is a public meeting. Councillor Bagley?
Your Honor, I want to thank Councilor Tabor for making the motion. I would suggest that maybe we make this a agenda item for either the next or the following meeting, so that, one, there can be printed documentation of it, and that we can have a healthy discussion and come prepared. So tonight, I guess we're acknowledging that we'll,
Well,
looking to do something and then
So I think that
formally do it at the next
so
meeting.
I think it's a difficult thing to come and conjure a number out of the air in this side without that side, or without Deborah, not that side, but without Deborah and the conversation occurring. I think that in order to get it on the agenda item, it would have to be a number certain. So if we can have the discussion and bring that back at the April 20th.
I'm sorry.
This is why we have the rules, but this is, I appreciate it.
Yeah. Sorry about that. And I'm happy to meet with all of you on in a different setting other than this, or some other discussion around how we want to move forward. So I'm available if anyone, if that makes the process any easier, so you have one less agenda item on the next meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any further discussion, Councillor Tabor?
Well, the resolution is still before us, right?
Correct.
So we can vote on that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So we have we will reach out on this. And again, I appreciate the for how difficult this is. I appreciate the grace that you've been able to conjure and show in this moment, Deborah, and let it be an example to all of us to search out and seek the human in resolving our, or just seek out the human, full stop. But I want to thank you for this, and again, share our deepest sympathies and support for the loss of Frankie, who just a good-looking, great friend. So.
I appreciate your open dialogue on this. I know it's not typically the behavior of the council meetings, and so I really do appreciate an opportunity to dialogue with you about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. We're going to take a 5-minute recess and come back with public comment. We just have, welcome back. We just have one more speaker, and that is Beth Martinson. And I am sorry, I see, I can't read the writing, but I can read some of the writing, but not all of it, so I don't want to guess. And that's my fault and not yours.
No, it's my fault. I apologize. I have the worst writing in the world.
Okay.
It's an
Maybe your
attorney problem. Kind of hard to speak right at this moment after that public comment. But my name is Beth Margison, and I live at 24 Marcy Street in Portsmouth. Although I serve as chair of the Zoning Board of Adjustment, I'm speaking tonight as a private citizen. And I'm speaking to you tonight on two topics. The first is that one of the proclamations that wasn't able to be read because I didn't get it in was that April is Child Abuse Prevention Month. And another disclaimer is necessary. I'm a lead attorney for the Division for Children, Youth, and Families. In that role, I bring cases of child abuse and neglect on behalf of the agency. I am not speaking tonight in my capacity as a DCYF attorney or as a representative of the agency. I am speaking as a private citizen whose interest is in communities that do everything that they can to protect children. Portsmouth does a good job in this respect. But April is an opportunity to emphasize the importance of awareness, education, and collective responsibility in fostering safer environments for children. From local campaigns to national initiatives, individuals can participate in events, access resources with a Google search, and use symbols like this blue ribbon to show support for and to invite others in this conversation. Therefore, I'm going to offer a blue ribbon to all of you to wear throughout April if you choose, and invite you to think about how it is that you're doing that impacts the children in this community, and perhaps as a conversation starter for conversations throughout the community. With your permission, Your Honor, I would just like to, I'll hand them down to Councilor Hopkins, and she can send them around. I have one more thing to talk to, and it's on this. Thank you. Take one, pass it down. And the second topic that I would like to speak to tonight is Councilor Tabor and Councilor Cook's items related to the Prescott Park Master Plan. Specifically, what should be done to install a covered stage and construct ancillary structures to serve the PPAF in the long-term future. The Prescott Park Master Plan was adopted by the Council in January 2017, following a nearly long process that began in 2016. I participated extensively in that process and served on the Prescott Park Master Plan Implementation Committee that adopted this Phase 1A of redoing the park. Again, I'm not speaking on behalf of the committee. This is just my thoughts on it. Unfortunately, I realized this. All of the personnel that were involved with the Prescott Park Master Plan are no longer with the city. City manager, city attorney, all of the elected officials. So therefore, I invite you all to review the materials relating to this process, which are contained on the city's website under Prescott Park. The master plan adopted a park-first approach, and any actions must follow this plan, and any agreements must be in accordance with it. I handed out Phase 1A of the work, which was adopted by the City Council in 2022. It is intended to serve the park for the long term. My concern is in seeing this item segmented out relating to the festivals that the other aspects of Phase 1A are really crucial, and in particular, the stormwater infrastructure program. Strawberry Bank has implemented its own master plan for stormwater infrastructure, and this is something that really, this and all the other things in Phase 1A really need to be looked at hard. I'm very aware of the budgetary issues, the lack of funding from the state and federal government, but climate change is here. It is ravaging the park. It is ravaging the South End and Strawberry Bank. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Beth. All right.
Your Honor, if I may suspend the rules to bring forward item 11C.
You want to speak, Rick? Come right up.
Good evening, Rick Beckstead, 1395 Washington Street. Asked if I wanted to speak. I think it's more important that I have to speak. A little confused. I got a lot of emails and phone calls about the agenda under your mayor as far as what's happening with the city clerk. I see that June is still here, but I definitely think that the public, I guess, is owed an explanation. Everyone's kind of been in shock and awe over the last 6 weeks, from literally the release of Kelly Barnaby, retirement, elsewhere. There's lots of rumors out there on the street, and I'm sure you've all heard of them. A lot of people are questioning what's going on with the city itself. Who's running the city? Why things happen the way that they happen? Why 3 weeks later, after basically the vote that you're going to take tonight, June went from clerk to, now Caitlin is going to be doing it. And Caitlin I've met a couple of times. Very nice person. I'm sure she'll do a good job. She's not quite what June and Kelly are by any means, but I'm sure she'll do the best. And I'm not so sure that you're going to be getting any clerks that are going to actually come in here for the applications. I don't have a lot of confidence. I have the same confidence I had when we let Juliet Walker leave and we have no planning director and haven't for many years. Peter Ritz has stepped in to go and take the title and the role because we are obligated to have a planning director, but he is not a planning director of any kind at all. And that's not to knock the rest of the planning department. We have a young planning department. Trust. Trust is where it comes down to. And again, I and many other people in the community are not liking what they're seeing, and they're not having a hard time trusting. The two of you being new ones, I'm sure probably by now you've got 3 months and change on your belt and go, holy shit, what the hell did I just do? In some ways, manner and form. This is what a counselor does and expects, non-public meetings before every city council meeting. It's encumbersome. I lived it for 4 years. I lived it as one, where you are, Councilor Hopkins, as a one versus 8 people. She had an opinion that other people in the community had itself. I just don't know if the community is trusting what's going on. And trust is everything. You said it. You said it, unfortunately, with the loss of a dog, as far as to be able to have faith and trust. I don't have trust. I don't have trust in the legal advice that you are all receiving. I do not have the trust in the direction that you are moving the city, and that's at the direction of the city manager. I've worked with the city manager for 2 years. Last year, Councilor Tabor, I said this to you, you actually ordered that there was a non-hiring. It was a freeze. Don't hire anybody. Well, a year ago, in March, we actually took on an intern that is now working for the city, has been for a year, and he is dating the city manager's daughter. And I don't know whether everyone's aware of that or not, but I certainly know the public isn't.
Rick,
I think that's something.
I think we should just keep it on to topics of,
It is a subject and a topic when it comes to trust, Eglin.
I don't know if somebody who's dating anybody is something that we need to be talking about. You're obviously entitled to say whatever you want to say.
And that's exactly what I went and said.
Okay.
Again, it comes down to trust, and I think a lot of people aren't trusting. I think you guys are going to have a really time finding a clerk for the time being, along with a lot of other positions. They're starting to add up a little bit. You got to look at your leadership and who's in charge and who's making the calls, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Next up, we are on to the public hearings and vote on ordinances and or resolutions. First reading of
Your Honor, if I could suspend the rules and bring forward item 11C, the tentative agreement with the school custodians.
Oh, sure, that's good. Yep, sorry for missing you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We have the tentative agreement with the school custodial employees and school cafeteria employees bargaining units.
Thank you, Your Honor. As Andrew Holbrook.
Oh, that's right, it's a city manager.
That's okay. Andrew did a wonderful job providing a bit of a background. The highlights here with this tentative agreement are such that 2 bargaining units have been morphed into one. This, as Andrew aptly pointed out, provides more flexibility with addressing health insurance challenges moving forward. And a note here that this would take effect retro to July 1st of 2025, and we did budget for this, and this is largely due to state and national organization and lack of representation for the local groups. So we look for your approval.
Councilor Bagley.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'll be voting against this. I think school care continues to be in disarray. I think it was a mistake to support an organization that has threatened to stop paying claims to our employees. And I think it's a big mistake to approve a contract that names school care as insured if at the last meeting we voted to pay under protest I'm not sure what kind of message this sends, but it's not one I want to support.
Thank you, Councilor Bagley. Councilor Blaylock.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'll make the motion so we can talk about it. I'll move to approve the agreement as presented.
Second.
I'm in support of this. I think there's a very vital role that these school cafeteria employees play. I went to Portsmouth High School. They serve our students. They serve our future. I was at the high school today talking with students that, are concerned with mental health in Portsmouth. But I think we need to support our school employees.
Thank you, Councilor Blaylock. Councilor Hopkins.
Thank you, Your Honor. And I just have a question because again, with school care, I see the language in here. I'm not a lawyer. If legal is comfortable that we would have an out, that we wouldn't get hamstrung again by school care, I have no trouble with the contract. But again, I don't want to be locked in to Councilor Bagley's point. I don't want to be locked into this entity that is not the most promising. So can we ask for legal's
Would you like to?
opinion?
I can discuss it, but legal better.
Yeah, sure. Whatever you want, Mayor. At your pleasure.
Go for it.
So this was drafted specifically by Tom Clausen, the city's labor attorney, with this exact scenario in mind, understanding that at the moment, school care is the insurance provider for this union, but providing flexibility in the future to move to a different insurance provider if needs be.
So we wouldn't be locked in.
So we wouldn't be locked in. Okay. And for these, and I'll take the time to speak on my favorite subject, school care, in a less of a, I guess, with less questions and more answers on that. And I just want to thank Andrew for eloquently speaking on behalf of the school cafeterias and school custodial staff. I remember Dick Maroka well, who was our lead custodian at New Franklin School. There's a plaque on on the wall there as you walk in. I know, a kid that we went to school with, Rich Adams, working there, and it's an awesome responsibility. I remember when Dick pulled out a retainer trash can and found a kid and saved his butt out of losing that. I think it's often a very difficult job, and it's one that I think that this contract goes a long way to, maybe not a long way, but it goes to speak to the dedication that the school employees bring in this very specific task, and it honors those that work that they do. I noticed the language, and it was difficult in their school care. We were going through that. A couple of things on school care. One, this language, if we had this language in the larger school employees contract, we would have been in a different position than we were going into this. We had no ability to provide any other, it was locked in. We couldn't say, hey, this plan does exactly the same for exactly the same amount of money, and we can move to that plan. If we had that, we would have. I think that the idea that, we should be, making all of these contracts like this. The difficulty with school care specifically was that they were going to deny our ability to pay claims by May 1st. That was before the deadline. They told us, before we ended up having the contract, they told us that without any time to negotiate and get on a different plan, they negotiated, and the way that we can go and appeal that is to the Secretary of State, and the Secretary of State had stacked the decks against us, not really being able to answer any of the questions we had. So we were in a position where the most that we could get out of it was a demonstration of what school care was willing to do to our employees. They demonstrated exactly what they're going to do, and it's going to be, all of our jobs to make sure that we are going to find an alternative for all school employees at the next possible time, knowing that if we are going to wait, we're going to get another assessment and another assessment and another assessment. But we simply do not have the ability right now to say to our school employees, like, I'll give an example, and I should have passed the gavel, passing the gavel to Councilor Cook. I'll give an example of what could have, we would have had to negotiate everybody's out of, deductibles And to say that we could have done this in a month or two, you know, insurance is pretty bad when it's even, you know, good. And you know, we could not have, like, we would have had a claim that would have come back and it would have been denied, and it would have been the fact that we moved off of school care in people's minds. We need to have a collective agreement with our with our school employees about what is a better long-term fit. We are not going to be able to have that conversation unless we are not making them, we're not forcing that decision on them like school care forced the decision on us. And so this contract is an enormous step in that direction, and I want to thank the bargaining units for putting that language in there. If we had that language, and if we could get this language into other contracts, we can start the conversation of what does self-insurance look like? What is a plan of comparable, equal, like a health trust look like? These are things that we could do if we have this language. This language supports what our intent on, and that's finding long-term stable health insurance that provides for our school employees and all city employees in a way that is dependable and provides the care that they have earned and that they need. And so I will be supporting this. I am very grateful for the union to be able to see this and to understand the situation that we're in, and to be able to pass this so that we can continue using this as a stepping stone for a broader conversation about how do we bring this into all of the contracts so we put ourselves in a position to actually get out of school care in the long term.
Sounds great.
Councillor Bagley.
Thank you, Your Honor. A couple questions for Trevor, I think. The school care, this union contract expired of July of this year, and we've been kind of, in an ideal scenario, in July is when this contract would have been renewed. Correct.
Yes, that's right.
And the city was not the reason for the delay.
Correct.
And the employees will get back pay when a contract is approved.
That's correct.
Yes.
So if we were to delay, it wouldn't cost the employees money. It would adjust the timeline of when they got it, but it wouldn't have cost them money.
Not yet, I'm sorry, but we can suspend the rules just after the councilor's questions are finished.
Hypothetically, yes.
And finally, can the city unilaterally change the health insurance, or does it require the assent of the union as the contract is written?
It calls for the parties to work together.
So the city would be in a position where they needed the employees to agree to a health insurance change?
Sure, yes. The parties would have to agree.
Thank you.
So we can suspend the rules if Andrew, I would say that there's no, Councilor Cook?
Thank you, Your Honor. I just wanted to speak to the school care issue briefly. I think that the bigger picture here is that our school employees union is on school care, and that's in their contract, and it's in their contract for the rest of the term of the contract. Without this flexibility, which means that we will have school care for our school employees unless something catastrophic happens to school care, which is a possibility. And I think that that's what we heard when we spoke with the Secretary of State, and that's what we have kind of determined from looking through all of their financials, is that there's this long-term concern that something will happen with school care and that our employees will not have the care that they deserve, that was guaranteed for them in their contract. But that's what is in the school employees contract. This contract, on the other hand, gives us some flexibility to make those changes working with the union. And I truly appreciate having the union representation here and saying that to us and re-emphasizing what was put into the contract. I really do appreciate your presence here and telling us that that's the case, and that you're willing to work with us on that. I think the goal is that everybody has quality health care. And that's what we want for all employees of the city in the long run. So I share serious concerns about the viability of school care in the long term, but we did not have another good option for healthcare coverage for our employees for the rest of this year, which was the case. We were going to lose viability starting May 1st. And we also didn't have a clear ability to move to a different provider because of the larger school employees contract. So I think for now, this flexibility is what's critical in this contract. I truly appreciate it. I will support the contract as a result. And as an anecdote, I just want to say that our custodians and our school cafeteria employees are really critical to services, not just in the schools, but they're critical not just for the services you think that they provide. A school custodian was one of my mentors in high school. He was the person who sat and talked with me. I spent way too much time at school because I went in at 6 in the morning for before school, and I was there till 10 o'clock at night doing debate in the evening. And in between activities, one of the only people that was still around the school while I was waiting for my next activity was a school custodian. And he was a mentor, a supporter, provided a lot of counseling. We have to remember how important these school employees are, because you never know which student they've connected with in the school. And so I want to make sure that we're supporting them to the best of our abilities.
Mayor, excuse me?
Yep.
I apologize. I'd like that last question back. Councilor Bagley,
I was about to pull this up.
I didn't answer it right, and I apologize. The city does have to bargain in good faith for the replacement insurance, but the city has the right to change insurance. But the bargaining in good faith comes with what the replacement will be.
So we can unilaterally change the insurance.
Correct.
Okay.
And again, I apologize. Thank you for.
Thank you, Trevor.
Record.
City Attorney, Acting City Attorney. I was pulling that up. It's not a small give on the part of the union to provide that. I appreciate that it is included in there. I also we will live up to our end of the bargain in that we will bargain in good faith should the need arise. And that's, really at the end of the day, what we are asking, collectively to be able to work outside of kind of legal frameworks and say, let's try to do the right thing for the most amount of people for the longest amount of time that we can do. And this is what this contract represents. That's, again, why I'll support it. And I think it is fitting that we have both the cafeteria and custodial bargaining units that are leading on this, and in many ways are a linchpin to the entire operations of our school department, and certainly a big part of every one of our child's lives that go through those schools and thus our community. So with that, without seeing any further questions or comments, do we need a 6 on this?
We do not.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Opposed.
Okay. Thank you both. Back to public hearing and vote on ordinance and resolutions. First reading of amendment to Chapter 11, Article 2, Section 11.216B, relative to sewer use changes.
Your Honor, I would move to pass first reading of the amendment to Chapter 11, Article 2, Section 11.216B, relative to the establishment of sewer fees, and schedule a public hearing and second reading for May 4th, 2026.
I second that.
And this is not the setting of the fees. This is simply the framework where we can add an additional service connection to account for those that are not actually using water, people, the second homes, et cetera, and to be able to
This allows a base fee that wasn't allowed in the old language.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Next, third and final reading of ordinance amending Chapter 10, zoning ordinance, to change the zoning designation of the following parcels pursuant to Chapter 10, Article 4, Zoning and District Use Regulations, Section 10.421, District Location and Boundaries, Section 10.421.10 of the zoning ordinance.
Your Honor, I move to pass third reading as presented.
Second. Any discussion? Councilor Bagley.
Your Honor, one resident reached out to me and was interested in speaking to this matter. So with your permission, I'll suspend the rules. And I don't know if that's something we do or not, to be honest.
We don't, because the public hearing is over. The second reading is over with public hearing. What would be are those rules that, I think they are designed so that they let everybody speak and incorporate the language that, like give everybody an opportunity to speak to that language. So I don't think it is, unless I'm looking at city, so the city attorney is telling me that that's not, or that's why the design specifically for public hearings, since we don't have a public hearing and we can't notice a public hearing, giving other, potential folks the ability to speak. So we can't entertain that at this time.
That sounds reasonable, and I was only aware of this tonight, so.
Okay.
Was unsure of how to proceed.
Councilor Morone.
I believe some questions came up during second reading that we had asked the city about, and I don't know if they're prepared to answer the questions. And it was more around whether or not the city takes on liability when we change zoning for any environmental impacts. And I believe the answer was no, but I just want to make sure that, because we had speakers talk about that, and we just wanted to confirm for sure that we don't take on any liability when we're changing specifically the 3 around Morona Road and for any sort of environmental impacts for the ownership.
The short answer, well, I'll let Trevor give the legal answer, but I think they were conflating 2 separate instances. One where we're being sued not because we changed but because of the claim that we had deposited materials at this, former junkyard. That is what the claim is, not because we changed the zoning.
I understand that, but I just wanted to confirm to make sure it was clear to the public that that was indeed the case. By us changing the zoning, we're not taking on liability of the environmental particulars of any of the lots that we change.
Yes, thank you, Councilor. That's correct. To the extent any party has any liability for the remediation of any contaminated site, it is due to their role as an arranger or a transporter of contaminated materials. So to the extent the city does or does not have liability for any particular site, it wouldn't be arising out of rezoning. And that would
I just want to make sure that was really clear after all the
Ranger
conversation.
or transporter.
Last time.
That is the legal. That is it. That's the legal. All right. Any other questions on this third reading? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're on to the city manager's remaining action items.
Thank you, Your Honor. First item is a request for approval of Seacoast Eat Local Farmers Market License Agreement. We are excited to once again work with Seacoast Eat Local, or SEL as we affectionately call them. This is the 30th season of the farmers market, and each year it gets a little better, a little bigger, a little different. We've already got a handful of vendors that have been approved pending this approval of the license agreement tonight, and the only change this year is to allow for a select few and deliberately placed direction signs which allow the market to do more advertising, and those will be on either side of the City Hall entrance on Junkins.
Your Honor, I move to authorize the city manager to execute the license agreement as presented, allowing Seacoast Eats Local to operate a farmers market at the municipal complex on Saturday mornings from May 2nd, 2026 through October 31st, 2026, and that the city manager is further authorized to negotiate and execute any amendment to the agreement that deems consistent with its purpose.
Second.
Any discussion? Councilor Bagley.
I've brought this up in the past, privately, not publicly, but if the people who Seacoast Eat Local, if they ever thought that they wanted to allow dogs at the farmer's market, I would support that.
It's not the call of the market vendor, it's the call of the health department.
It's the health department, yeah.
So that's entirely within control, Andrew.
I love the farmer's market, I just think it'd be better with dogs.
Any further discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Great. Thank you. We're up to item B. It's the staff bringing back the updated resident access parking program, or known as RAP. And Deputy City Manager Carl Weber is here on behalf of the team of Peter Rice, Ben Fletcher, and Mike Cassad. And Carl comes having spent time in front of the Parking and Traffic Safety Committee as well as the Economic Development Commission, and brings the collective comments of the two groups. Welcome, Carl.
Thank you, Your Honor, and members of the council. I'll be brief and just highlight some of the areas that have changed since the last time we came before you. As the city manager mentioned, we went to PTS as well as the EDC. We met with the rec board, the library, the chamber collaborative, and a local business as well. And the concept remains the same of trying to increase access for residents in these areas by charging non-residents $1 per hour in these areas. What you'll see is we removed the lots and we added Tanner Street, Tanner Court, and Washington Street from Court to Hancock. One of the other things that we wanted to make sure was clear was the 3 hours free for ADA and veterans parking was included as part of this, and we will be putting in, if this is passed, a repurposed parking kiosk down on Parrott Ave as well. But the bigger change that happened was we heard from the chamber, we heard from members of the council about, can we do anything about downtown workforce parking outside of the garage? In the garage, it works great because we have a garage with a gate and a ticket. They can pre-buy stickers. We came up with the idea of just on Parrott Ave, allowing folks to register for a downtown workforce just on Parrott Ave and charging them 30 cents an hour plus the initial 35-cent fee, which will be very comparable to the $3 for 10-hour parking in the garage. And I think this is going to be a good experiment to see if we can take the downtown workforce out of the garage and put it to other places if needed. A couple of other things that you'll see in here. The revenue has changed a little bit because we've scaled down the project. We do still estimate about $5,300 coming in revenue, about $2,100 to enforce it. So there'll still be a surplus generated that'll help us expand into other areas, potentially for resident access that wouldn't generate funds. And we have additional maps in here. The other thing is Attorney Farini put out the steps here that really outlined how to make this happen with both the first reading, the potential second reading, with the public hearing. So there'll be lots of opportunities for more feedback. Again, all feedback's a gift, and we got lots of gifts along the way. And this gives us plenty of time to have this enacted, do a lot of education prior to a July 1 effective date.
Carl, okay, some questions all over the place. All right, Councilor Morone.
Just because we did get an email, I believe, earlier today saying that the employee program being expanded to Parrott Ave would actually cost taxpayers money. And I just want to confirm, because I'm pretty sure any shortage that we would find by giving these employees the ability to do that discount rate would actually come out of parking revenues and not taxpayer funds. I just want to make sure that's
correct.
True.
Councilor Cook.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have met with South End neighbors, and they're excited about the possibility of having some parking control on a few streets. But the one question that I did receive was when somebody has a special issue, for example, they've got short-term construction, say a one-day demolition in their home, and they need to bring a truck out front of their house, will they still be able to reserve a spot through the regular program that you would if you were moving or if you had a delivery or that kind of thing?
Yes, that wouldn't be affected by this.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Flynn?
Carl, thank you for your work on this, and particularly the work you did to alleviate some of the burden for people working in town or living out of town. I've heard from a few small business owners who are very appreciative of that, so they're not looking at giving their employees $1 pay cut an hour, if you're, so thanks for all your hard work on this.
Councilor Tabor.
Thanks, Mayor. I wasn't clear, Carl, on will we be using kiosks on the other streets besides Parrott?
No, it says that's really sort of the areas where we're going to try to prioritize residents. Once they register their plates, they can just park there for free. Other folks that are non-residents would use the app, or they could go to some place where there's a proximity. But the only one we decided that would make sense is on Parrott because it's a little bit further away than the other locations.
Okay, so if these non-residents would have to use Park Mobile, we'd need to communicate that in some way, maybe signage or...
Yep. We're working on signage right now, informational flyers. So the month of June will be a lot of information and flyers going on cars so they know it's coming, but they also know what they would need to do to either, if they're residents, to register, or they know that in those areas they'd use Park Mobile.
Okay. And lastly, under data collection and analysis, It says that occupancy counts will be 6 a.m., 12 noon, and 6 a.m. again, so.
It should be 6 p.m.
figured.
Councilor Moreau found that earlier today, and we will fix that.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Moreau.
I would go ahead and make a motion that we move to schedule a first reading for an ordinance amending Chapter 7, Parking, Article 1, Parking Meters, Section 7.102, Parking Meter Rates to establish parking rates for the Resident Access Parking Program, otherwise known as RAP, pilot, at the April 20th, 26th City Council meeting.
Second.
Any further discussion? Councilor Blaylock.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you for all the work that's been done by the city staff, the parking department, Carl, and all the different committees that have offered their gifts. I do think this, I'm interested to hear from the public on this. I always worry when we draw new lines in the sand or make these, these big changes. But I hope that it can accomplish the goal it's intended without disrupting others and without causing more problems.
Councilor Hopkins.
To that point, I want to reiterate that this is a pilot, so it's an experiment. It has an end point, and we're going to gather data. It's not a big sweeping change. Yeah. It's a temporary shift to gather data, to see again if we can widen the net to include more folks to get top dollar out of parking. Not top dollar, we get to keep our dollars for parking. And yeah, because I hear a lot from it too. I mean, parking traffic safety, it's really been thoughtfully designed. Feedback has been honored. And again, it's a pilot study.
Yeah.
It's not a permanent change right now.
Any other? Councilor Blaylock.
And yeah, just to reply to that, my father actually reminded me today that no parking pilot has gone well in Portsmouth, in the history of Portsmouth. So again, just adding to my concerns. But we're not making a permanent change. But I still have concerns.
Certainly right to have concerns. One that did go well, we didn't do it as a pilot, but the employee parking. So we skipped the pilot on that. So yeah, pilots have a hard time. And I think it's because some of the confusion that goes in. So Carl, a lot of work ahead in terms of if this were to pass, of delivering the information to folks in a way that they can understand. I am excited that we're being able to bring the salaried or the hourly parking for the employees there and expand where we are, get it closer to some of the businesses downtown. I think that's a real positive step in the direction that we want to go as a city, making it easier for those employees to park. We'd be interested to hear the feedback from public comment and otherwise. I think that there is when we try to do this, we remember what Portsmouth is to a lot of our neighboring communities, and I would love to be able to see if there was, in addition to, residents, to figure out how can we have a community parking program that extends to our nonprofit volunteers, those, folks that are coming in to our community, making it better, but might not be working at a small business. And so figuring out ways that we can extend this to a community. Understand we don't want to bite off more than we can chew there, but I think being able to have a broader idea of who who comes in and serves the city to take into account would be something that I'd love to hear about. But really excited about expanding the hourly employee parking program, because that was the biggest concern that we had on many in the first time around on this. So I'm glad that that's been addressed, and hopefully, what this pilot does is expand that program to 2 parts of the city. And if you can't get to your downtown business from either the Foundry or Pleasant, it's probably not, possible to do that via car. So I think that's a great step. Look forward to the discussion. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Next, we have totally lost. That was
a couple more items, Your Honor. Next up would be a request for a public hearing to participate in the Clean Water State Revolving Fund. Items D and E are similar and will both be followed with a presentation if you vote to support a public hearing and vote on April 20th. Al Pratt, our Water Resource Director, brought both of these opportunities to you. And the first one involves the opportunity to borrow $6 million from the Clean Water State Revolving Fund for the Fleet Street Area Reconstruction Phase 2B project, which has a total project cost of $18 million. So this $6 million would come from FY28 if we did not get this grant, but to take advantage of this, not only takes that off our debt schedule in the future, but also allows for 5% principal forgiveness, which allows us to enjoy approximately $300,000 in savings. And the current interest rate is noted in the write-up, and we will also be eligible for state aid grant funding as well. So the request tonight is to move to schedule a public hearing and vote at the April 20th meeting to participate in this fund loan program for this project.
Your Honor, I move to schedule a public hearing and vote at the April 20th, 2026 City Council meeting to participate in the New Hampshire DES Clean Water State Revolving Loan Fund Loan Program for the Fleet Street Area Reconstruction Phase 2B project as presented.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor? Oh, Counselor Cook.
As always, I just wanted to thank the city manager and our staff for working so hard to find ways that the city can save money.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you again.
Similar request coming up to access funding from the state's drinking water revolving loan fund for the construction of the PFAS treatment facility required at the Greenland well. This offer includes approximately $862,000, I'm rounding up, from the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund Emergent Contaminant Loan Program with 100% forgiveness and 10% principal forgiveness from the remaining loan amount of $5.6 million. So that is great savings again. And previously authorized bonding authority for $2 million under the FY26 Greenland well treatment will be rescinded with this resolution. So if we vote on this at the next meeting, you will then see a rescission of bonds to follow.
Move to schedule a public hearing and vote at the April 20th, 2026 City Council meeting to participate in the NHDES Drinking Water State Revolving Fund Loan Program for Greenland well treatment and rescind bonding authority as described in the draft resolution as presented.
Second?
Counselor Bagley.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just, after being a counselor for a number of years, every time the packet comes out and Al Pratt's name in it, isn't it? It's great news because we're always saving money and making our drinking water better. So I just wanted to give him that shout out because whenever I see his name in the packet, it's like, oh, good news.
Well, Al is on Zoom, and I'm betting he's smiling right now. Thank you, Al.
Thanks, Al.
We'll see him next
And
meeting.
Counselor Bagley. Any other questions on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Last item, Your Honor, is a request for a revocable license from 134 Pleasant Street, owned by Double MC LLC, the applicant, which is currently the Citizens Bank building and other office uses. This has been recently to the Planning Board. The Planning Board has sent to the Council for their consideration that the Council determine whether and under what terms the city would allow continued vehicular egress across the Parrott Avenue parking lot. Trevor wrote a very detailed memo. I'm going to probably stop talking and ask if he'd like to provide any color commentary that helps you understand your options. Trevor?
Certainly, thank you, City Manager. As you say, at the last Planning Board meeting, the Planning Board took up consideration of site plan approval request from Double MC Realty LLC. As you know, that's the current location of the Citizens Bank next to the Parrott Ave parking lot. And the property owner there seeks to redevelop that parcel by retaining bank and office space and adding significant residential space and an underground parking garage. Over the course of the application process, I have been working with representatives of the property owner on the issue around egress there. There was a note on the plan stating that there was a 40-foot wide right-of-way that the property benefited from. But when we dug further into that note, we couldn't find actual title to where that egress was, which led to the conclusion at the Planning Board a couple weeks ago that a license would be necessary in order for the property to benefit from continued egress over the Parrott Ave parking lot. At that Planning Board meeting, the representative of the property owner represented to the Planning Board that egress back onto Pleasant Street could be accommodated. And of course I can describe any of these options in more detail, but there are really three options. Well, when at the time I wrote the memo, there were three options presented, and I'll get to where I'm headed here, but there were three options for the city council's consideration. First would be to allow egress over a newly proposed area proposed by the applicant, where vehicular egress would exit basically straight out and then take a left alongside the courthouse out onto Parrott Avenue. The second option would be that vehicular egress would continue in the current configuration onto the Parrott Ave parking lot and then out through the parking lot. And the third option would be for the council to decline the request to grant a license, in which case the applicant would have to reconfigure their site plan in order to accommodate vehicular egress onto Pleasant Street. Now, where I was headed with this is that John Shagnon, who represents the property owner here, caught me in the 5-minute interlude that you graciously allowed us, Mayor, and indicated that he has some late-breaking documentation from the early 19th century, which may change the situation. So I suppose the fourth option would be that the City Council could request a further report back from the legal department on the content of that letter. I know Mr. Shagnon is here. He had indicated that he wanted to read that into the record. Tonight's my night for not asking one more question, I guess, and I didn't ask him if he knew that he had to speak at public comment in order to read that in, although I'm not sure that I could realistically opine on any of the documentation that he has sitting here before you. But I'd be happy to answer any questions that anyone may have.
Would it be your advice to suspend the rules and ask Mr. Shagnon to read this into the record this time?
You could. I'm not sure I'd be able to.
Oh, we're
really
not going to be able to.
comment on
Okay.
it.
So I guess Councilor Morrell.
And I apologize for not being at this planning board meeting. I wasn't feeling well that day. But I would, if there is new documentation, and I'm assuming that we would need some time to review this documentation, I think that we should postpone this until the April 20th meeting, where we can get a report back on the additional information.
Okay, so at the last planning board meeting, there was a conversation, and then it was punted to our decision on this. And our, our legal belief is that, we can't adversely possess, or nobody can adversely possess against the city, and that we would ultimately be allowing this development by using a public access parking lot that we might have future uses to at some point in the future. We would, we would not want to be in that position, but there might be information that this exists and there is a right to it, and so it wouldn't be that legal question that we would have in front of us any longer. And so in order for that to happen, we'd want this to go back to the planning board, and that memo to be, delivered to the planning board on that for them. I just don't want to make it so that they can't act if there is, if it doesn't need to come back to us, that we've found the clear documentation that this isn't there is a right to this, then let private people do, private development things. But if it's us asking for our, to grant a right when it doesn't exist, then that would be a harder place for us to entertain, and a precedent that we don't want to set.
Sure, Mayor, if I may, I could commit, if the result of the legal research is that they do have the right and title to pass and repass, and nothing else is needed from the council, that would be my report back to you, and we could allow things to continue at the planning board level based upon that report back. I could simultaneously provide that report back to the planning board.
Okay.
Again, I don't know what's in the documentation.
Sure, yeah, well, maybe, yeah, it's, it's Nixon's secret plan there. Councilor Bagley.
Would we, thank you, Your Honor, would we motion to table this for a report back? How would we do this?
You could move to request a report back from the legal department on the title to the Parrott Ave parking lot.
That was kind of my suggestion.
So moved.
Second.
All right, any discussion on this? Councilor Cook? Oh, no. Okay, so we're going to wait, report back, and that report back, if it's doesn't require action of the council, will come to the planning board and the planning board and the council at the same time, in time then for their potentially in time then for the next meeting of the planning board. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next is the consent agenda.
Your Honor, I move to adopt the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Sorry about that motion, Counselor.
It's all right, I already fixed it.
That seems okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so we have email correspondence under presentations and written communications.
Your Honor, I move to accept and place on file.
Second.
Any discussion? Counselor Blaylock.
Yes, we got a very nice email from Portsmouth High School student Cody Bullock. Me and Counselor Flynn attended the high school today, met with the students. They have a YOLO class. The Robinson family spoke to this class. They were really engaged. They decided to do something on their own. So they want to be involved in mental health in Portsmouth. They made these little stickers that I handed out. You can see one prominently on my iPad here. They're also making T-shirts. But in the future, I'm going to work with them to try to schedule a time where they could come in and present. But I was very impressed by the high school students taking this initiative on their own, looking out for others, looking out for their own community. It was pretty
Excellent.
cool. Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's great. They're so impressive. They're trying to normalize a very challenging conversation, and they're really impressive.
Look forward to those T-shirts. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. First, we have we're on to the council agenda, I believe.
Yep. Yes.
Yep. The appointment of Caitlin Griggs as acting city clerk pro tempore of the city of Portsmouth, effective April 7th, 2026, to serve until a permanent city clerk is hired. This appointment is made in accordance with the city charter, section 4.2, New Hampshire RSA 48:8, and New Hampshire RSA 669:65 to fill the current vacancy in the office.
Your Honor, I move to appoint Caitlin Griggs as acting city clerk pro tempore of the city of Portsmouth, effective April 7th, 2026, to serve until a permanent city clerk is hired. This appointment is made in accordance with the city charter, section 4.2 and New Hampshire RSA 48:8 and New Hampshire RSA 669:65 to fill the current vacancy in office.
Second.
I would like to start by saying thank you very much to June Philbrook for all of the work that she's done, for all of the pens that I have stolen from her, and I wish her very well in that, in her next, in the next steps in her career, and just thank her for all of the work and counsel she gave to us at the time of the acting city clerk. Councilor Cook.
Thank you, Your Honor. I too echo the thanks.
Do this.
It's so nice to go to the clerk's office and always be welcomed by a smiling face. And June is always that person who is welcoming and kind and extremely helpful. And I'm going to miss you. So thank you for all the hard work you've put in. I truly appreciate it.
Councilor Bagley.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just want to thank June not only for all the work she did as a city employee, but not everybody knows this. She's been instrumental in a lot of the food and toy drives at Thanksgiving, at Christmas, reaching out when people need help. She's been a tremendous volunteer in the community and done a lot of great work for a lot of people. And I don't think she gets very much recognition for all that she's done.
Thank you, Andrew.
Councilor Hopkins.
I, again, just wanted to offer my gratitude and commend June. You know, I haven't been in the city dealings for as long as most of you up here, but on Student Government Day, me and my little charge got to see June in action, and I was just thoroughly impressed at how knowledgeable, helpful, encouraging, and supportive she was with the kids and me, also like a little freshman counselor over here. And so you will be missed. Your presence will be missed, and I thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. I'll just echo that too, June. I'm going to miss you, and thanks for all your support. As you said, being new to this, Thank you, Wish you all the best.
Thank you.
June?
I think you need to vote.
Yep. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, June. Next is a request for a joint work session with the school board and school department regarding the FY27 operating budget. And I would make the motion that we will have, or I'd wait a motion that we would have that a week from tonight on April 13th at 6 p.m.
So moved.
Second. I reached out to Lisa Rappaport on the chair of the school board in the discussion on where they are with some of the requests that we've had for change. Got some emails, concern from teachers, specifically around supplies, et cetera. Certainly not the intent, but an opportunity to have this conversation. They will be having a school board vote on revisions to the currently adopted FY27 budget on the following day. So this would be an opportunity to ask questions of the school board before they take a vote. Ultimately, as is the charter, we have the bottom line authority on this, but I'm encouraged by that budget presentation that will that they're taking up the budget again, and to be able to have this conversation before. Thanks to Lisa for that suggestion. So look forward to having that, and if this passes, we will be back here in 1 week. Any discussion? Okay, easy. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Next is appointments to be considered. Appointment of Lisa Margolin to the Board of Commissioners, Portsmouth Housing Authority. Had a conversation with her. I suggest that you guys reach out if you are able. To her information is in the packet, and she is more than qualified to serve in this. Not saying you guys can't have hard questions, but in terms of being able to do the role, she's quite impressive. Next, the appointment of Paula Glenn to the Citywide Neighborhood Committee, the appointment of Colleen Ovecka to the Citywide Neighborhood Committee, the appointment of Jessica Blasco to the Conservation Commission, the reappointment of Mary Lone to the Housing Blue Ribbon Committee, the reappointment of Jen Stebbins Thomas to the Housing Blue Ribbon Committee, the reappointment of Dagan Migardrich and Andrew Simonis, Byron Maddow, Eric Weinrob, Caitlin McGrath Levesque, all to the Housing Blue Ribbon Committee, the reappointment of Richard Duddy to the Recreation Board along with Lauren Kranz, and the reappointment of Eric Anderson to the Housing Blue Ribbon Committee. Appointment of Sean Zudimia to the Safe Water Advisory Group. Now, it is my intent to have all of these Housing Blue Ribbon Committees come back at the next meeting. Please reach out with any questions, and there's 2 that are already on here, and so we're going to wait to vote on them, to vote collectively on that at the following meeting. That's right. Councilor Rowe?
Am I able to be on the committee?
You are, but you don't have to be a voted member.
I wasn't sure.
I don't think so. Yeah.
All right, just wanted
Well,
to make
we
sure.
can vote you on next time if we need to. And now,
Council Murrow is indispensable to that.
I don't know about indispensable, but I was just
so
curious.
we're not going to have a vote on Angus tonight or Oliver. We will delay them to there, but we do have one voting to do, and she is, as always, anytime that I've had a chance to appoint this woman to anything, she's been there, so it is my great honor to reappoint or to call for the reappointment of Jacqueline Callie Pitts to the Recreation Board.
Your Honor, it is my honor to move to reappoint Jacqueline Kelly Pitts to the Recreation Board.
I second that.
I just speak, I've had the honor and pleasure of serving with Jackie on the Recreation Board. I've known Jackie my whole life. We used to worked together over at St. James Church. And yeah, it's just a pleasure to work with Jackie. Thank you for your continued service. I know she did a lot of work up in Concord, and we're very lucky to have her. So thank you.
Jackie's waiting to see if anybody's voting against her. So. But, yeah, but it's not going to happen. Jackie, again, thank you for your commitment to Portsmouth serving. This will be your 39th and 40th years on the rec board. It is it's amazing what gets done when your single issue is Portsmouth, and Jackie Calley-Pitts has always had the passion to serve her fellow citizens of Portsmouth well, and it's an honor that she continues to want to do so, and serve on the rec board, where she has a lot of great ideas, but she also has a lot of enthusiasm to volunteer at many events. You're not going to be at any one of the things that happens at the Senior Center without her serving. So appreciate you, Jackie, for all you do.
And a lot of institutional knowledge as well.
Yeah, yeah. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? We now are on to Councillor Cook and Councillor.
No, resignation.
Oh, no, I don't take those. We can't afford to. Resignation of Tori Brooks from the Sustainability Committee.
I move to accept regret the resignation of Tori Brooks from the Sustainability Committee and send a letter thanking Tori for her service.
Second.
Second.
Councillor Cook.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just wanted to say Tori Brooks is an incredible individual whose knowledge of sustainability measures is unmatched. And I wanted to thank her specifically for the work she did in helping us draft a green buildings policy for the city manager and staff. She was instrumental in guiding that process. So she will definitely be missed on sustainability.
Certainly. Thank you, Tori. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Resignation of Jason Goodrich from the Arts and Cultural Commission.
Your Honor, I move to accept with regret the resignation of Jason Goodrich from the Arts and Cultural Commission and to send a letter thanking Jason for his service.
I second that.
Councillor Cook.
Thank you, Your Honor. Jason has done fantastic work on the Arts and Cultural Commission, and now he is joining the Economic Development Commission. So I know he will also do fantastic work there. We're going to miss him on Arts and Cultural Commission, but I hope those who serve on the EDC appreciate his knowledge.
Yes, Jason, you're not going anywhere except across, but we appreciate your willingness to serve.
And just speak for the member of the EDC, we expect twice the effort from you now.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Council members Cook and Tabor.
Your Honor, I move to request a report back from staff on changes to park renovations in Phase 1A of the Prescott Park Master Plan, and given these changes, how Prescott Park Arts Festival, in partnership with the city, could privately fund a covered stage and any ancillary structures to serve the festival for the long-term future.
Second?
And I will first speak to this. I think Councilor Tabor and I probably will both speak to this motion tonight. And I appreciated the comments from public comment from Beth Margison. It's exactly concerns that I share with Ms. Margison about issues with the park and flooding and long-term sustainability of the park that leads me to bring this motion tonight. Phase 1A of the Prescott Park Master Plan is really designed to address some of the critical needs of the park, the infrastructure needs that will help kind of contain some of the flooding to specific zones. But those plans, because they have to go through extensive review by DES, have changed along with the flooding that we've seen in the park. And so I really wanted to see a report back on what the changed plans for Phase 1A look like for the council, because I have particular concerns that We all know that we have kind of a budget crunch, and we don't have a lot of funding for full implementation of the master plan for Prescott Park. And that plan was designed in 2017, but at that time, we had a different vision for how much we could do as financially as a community and how much money we would have coming in to address kind of the long-term needs of the park. But because we have that plan in place right now, we're kind of stuck with that long-term vision for what the park looks like. And it kind of hampers any movement on other projects that are necessary right now. And I think everybody knows this. There are challenges around the sidewalks in the park. There's a chain link fence, an older chain link fence, that it would be great to address some of these ongoing concerns, but we have a plan in place that maybe we cannot execute at the moment. And so I want to know what the changes are to this Prescott Park plan, especially for Phase 1A, so that I know what we're doing to plan for water in the park, and then how else we address other concern in the park, like the existing stage. And I'm going to let Councilor Tabor address that in more detail.
Thanks, Councilor Cook and Mayor. We did check in, Councilor Cook and I and Courtney Perkins from the festival on Phase 1A, and there are a lot of changes that I hope will be explained in this report back. And I also second what Councilor Cook is saying about the 2017 master plan. There's not the funding now that was anticipated for that. So I think all of that needs to be reappraised and questioned. But in this is the future of a stage for Prescott Park Arts Festival. And PPAF is really one of the two cultural crown jewels of the city with the music hall. It draws 150,000 people a summer, and it's a huge economic driver. And for the caliber of entertainment that's being put on that stage, what we have, which is city-owned, is not adequate. Puddles form on it when it rains. The wiring underneath is pretty old. But more important, there are two big improvements that need to happen for this amazing arts organization. It needs to be covered. Even the lightest rain will puddle and create slip and fall, safety risks, risks with the amplifiers and microphones. And we've had seasons, I'm speaking now as a former trustee, where some seasons were 30% rainouts. And in something like the Arts Festival that only has a 11-week life each season, that's really dangerous economically. I shouldn't say dangerous, it's a major challenge. And the other thing that is deficient in the stage is it needs to move back to allow more room for audience. When the festival has big shows like the Indigo Girls last summer, the sidewalks fill up and there's no egress. So, and not to mention, because of the Prescott Trust, the festival can't sell tickets, unlike most other arts organizations. So they depend on sponsorships and they depend on food sales and donations at the gate. And the expanded audience area would really help that, really help the site fund the first-class entertainment that we've gotten used to. The festival's been here 50 years. I think that's important to consider when we're looking at a Prescott Park master plan. This is not a temporary organization. This is a permanent part of the city. And it's a chance to partner so that we can get a first-class stage to continue this small but mighty organization really punching above its weight class. And I would say the Arts Festival, it really represents who we are as a city. We're putting on acts and musical theater with equity actors, national touring acts, that you see in cities 5 times our size. So this is the chance to look at how we can partner to get a proper stage for the next 50 years. And when the report comes back, I think we'll see there have been a lot of changes in the assumptions. The sea level rise is very real, in fact, more real now than 2017, and we'll hear about that. But there are ways to fit some of these needs for a better stage into the program of work. So I look forward to that, and I know the folks at the festival have donors who want to see a new stage and are eager to fund a new stage. And I think if it were a covered stage, well, I would say it has to be a covered stage, and that's why the motion has the language that it does. The festival can thrive. So those were my thoughts on it.
Councillor Bagley, Hopkins, then Blaylock.
Thank you, Your Honor. I guess broadly I agree. I would have requests that the McIntyre funds that were going to be diverted for this Prescott Park master plan, if there could be some outline of that, because I think that's unknown to a lot of people, that when the McIntyre project was upended, so was all the future investments in Prescott Park. I don't think everyone is aware of that link, so it would be nice to have that highlighted. And two, I agree with a covered stage makes a lot of sense. I know I lost the vote a few years ago about the Shaw Warehouse. I think we have limited funds. Getting private funds to do things and using the funds as efficiently as possible rather than trying to preserve every artifact at Prescott Park is paramount. There's just not going to be enough money, so we might have to make some tough decisions, but I think the festival itself should be a priority, and a non-public building with non-ADA bathrooms, in my opinion, is not a priority, and if something had to be sacrificed, that's where I'd start.
Thank you, Councillor Bagley. Councillor Hopkins.
Thank you, too, for bringing this forward. We adore that festival. And I just wanted to say, I fully support a covered stage. And, to your point of the acts and such that they bring forward, they deserve safety, too. And, of course, we always think of the rain and the rainouts. But I remember we were there maybe last summer or the one before for one of the afternoon shows for the children. And it was like 95 degrees with 95% humidity. It was an awful day. And the crowd was in shade from the trees and such. The poor woman on stage passed out because she was in the sun. So again, and that leads me to, as we move forward and rethink these things, I would just bring up our climate action plan that the city holds dear. Looking at things like heat resilience, as we look at things as coastal flooding and all of those very real infrastructure threats, I would just really in the report back, I'd like to see some nods to our climate action plan as well as a whole for resilience for everyone. And yeah, I couldn't love the festival more, so I'm really supportive of moving forward with this.
Councillor Blaylock.
Thank you, Your Honor. No, thank you, Councillor Cook, Councillor Taylor, for bringing this up. I paid a lot of attention to this. I wasn't involved, but my father was mayor when this was all done. I know the funding was all supposed to be from the national park, right? We were supposed to get it all for Parks and Recreation through the McIntyre building. That was what kind of created this. We're going to have this park funding, so this is what we're going to plan to do with it. So I know that's all changed. I'm anxious to hear a report back, but I'm concerned. We just scheduled a work session with the school to talk about their budget. We only have so much money. We can only prioritize, so many things. So I just want to keep in mind, I hope like private funds can come through. That was that's how Prescott Park started, right? The Prescott Sisters. And I love the Prescott Park Arts Festival. I go as often as I can. But I just want to keep in mind that we're remembering all the other priorities we have up here, and we only have so much money. We have to take care of the schools and everybody else. So,
Councilor Cook.
Thank you, Your Honor. And I wanted to speak to that concern just briefly. I think the goal of this motion is not for the city to expend additional funds. The goal is specifically to get a report back on Phase 1A and see what the city is planning to do with funds that we've already allocated. Those have already been approved and passed CIP budget. So I just want to know what is happening there, and I think it's important that the whole council understands what the Phase 1A looks like at this stage. But then also for the city to work in partnership with Prescott Park Arts Festival, like we do other entities that rent our spaces, so that they can privately fund a better stage facility for them. So, so we have a lot of these partnerships across the city. I think the most recent one is PMAC in the old South Meeting House. But the Players Ring that sits in one of our other buildings in Prescott Park right now, we have a lot of partnerships with nonprofit entities that kind of maintain our buildings and exist in our buildings, and this is just another one of those partnerships. They just happen to be in Prescott Park. So I want them to be able to meet their needs by privately funding what they need, noting that the city does not have additional funds allocated in our CIP budget for further implementation beyond what we've already funded.
Thank you, Councilor Cook, Councilor Tabor. I think it's a good place to start. I would be remiss if I didn't point out that this is a privately fund a covered stage. I think the hard part about the last go around, and I don't think anybody recalls the last time that we had this larger debate, but was whether or not it was going to be a permanent stage or a non-permanent stage. That's not included as a permanent. Is that intentional, or do you think it is implied from a covered?
I think that's up to the engineers and architects.
Okay.
I think the goal is a covered stage that operates efficiently, that's safe, and that supports the kind of programming. In other words, it's purpose-built for what the festival does.
Councilor Bagley?
I would support a permanent stage in the, leave it to the engineers, of course. But I remember when the skating rink at Puddle Dock was first created, there was a lot of outcry against that as well. And they had a temporary shed that they had to build for the first 3 years, which added great cost and complexity. And I would hate to see the park have to an ongoing maintenance cost of setting up and tearing down a stage every year. I think Prescott Park's been here, I think, about as long as I've been alive. Hopefully it'll be here much longer than I am. So I would support the permanent direction rather than something that has to be set up and broken down just because of the costs that would be inherent with that on an ongoing basis.
I think that's certainly possible in the motion that we have in front of us. I would ask that I appreciate the direction that I think is trying to thread a couple of different needles, and Prescott Park happens to be all of the needles all of the time in terms of that we got to thread. It's a pastoral aspect. It's also an economic generator for the city. It's also a great place that doesn't require you to buy a ticket, although a donation is pretty strongly encouraged, and many residents certainly, love to have the pin as we do to make sure that, we even if we don't have cash, can go there. I hope that with the report back from what we're able to provide, the Prescott Park Arts Foundation is able to weave or thread some of those needles concurrently. The historical preservation. If it's not within the cities, as Andrew wants to, that's the first thing he's kicking out of the car there. So if we're able to speak about how do we thread the historical aspect with, potentially taking on a permanent aspect, I think that's there. Obviously something like, not obviously, but I think it's important that we have once we get that report back and there is a opportunity from a private standpoint to invest in that we have a public conversation. This is not something, and I don't think that you guys or Councilor Tabor or Councilor Cook are any way intending this, and as much as we might want to come up with a great idea, if we don't have the process to explain why this is a better idea, we're going to be in a position where it's not going to happen. And so even if we believe, you know, we got to make sure, and it might be the city might be ready for that conversation, but we need to have that conversation and allow that to come through, taking into the account that, you know, the Puddle Dock has been a fantastic recognition of how a more permanent structure could, you know, exist within the confines of that. But I'll leave it at that. This is asking for a report back. This is not committing the city to do anything, but tell us what we're going to spend the money on as a part of the master plan. And if we need to make revisions potentially to that master plan, it might be a time to look at, you know, forming that committee to do so. But I don't want to slow down what you guys, as representing the PPAF, could bring back. So, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Next, the approvals of grants and donations. The acceptance of donation from Liberty Mutual for Liberty Mutual Day volunteers.
I move to accept the donation from Liberty Mutual for Liberty Mutual Day volunteers to participate in day of service activities and restoration projects to be held on Friday, May 8th, 2026 and Friday, May 15th, 2026 at the direction of the Cemetery Committee as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? Thank you, Liberty. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Liberty.
Well, Liberty Mutual.
Like
I think their commercials are getting to me. You know, Liberty. You know, like I don't think they go by Liberty Mutual as much anymore.
I needed that laugh. Okay.
Acceptance of Portsmouth Certified Local Government Grant in the amount of $27,000.
Your Honor, I move to accept up to $27,000 from the Portsmouth Certified Local Government Grant and authorize the city manager to enter into a grant agreement as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
We're on to the city manager's informational items.
Your Honor, I have two quick ones. The first one is an update on the most recent flash vote survey regarding heat resilience. Our Planning and Sustainability Department has been studying vulnerabilities to extreme heat across the city and recently conducted a survey. And we got 391 responses, which is an average response rate, and most residents are at least somewhat bothered by summer heat. There's some good information in that survey, and the more comprehensive intercept survey, in-person conversations and interviews are being conducted now in order to supplement that cohort. We have some great interns at our disposal for this very topic in the planning department right now. The other update is to remind folks to take advantage of the big citywide master plan open house, where we hope to present the draft to be final with folks' comment vision that UTIL's been working on. That's taking place on April 22nd at 6 p.m. at Community Campus. And I just have a couple things under miscellaneous if we're rolling right along. I would just like to share that we have made an offer to a city clerk candidate, and that offer's been accepted, and that person's going through background check right now. So we hope to have a timely update to share with the council and the public as soon as possible. Thank you.
City manager, I'd like to point out under miscellaneous, we have Sustainability Day Fair. Were you guys going to say that?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay, check out the low-flush toilets, guys. They are fantastic.
And the leftist marching band and food and drink.
Excellent. And
it's
that
at
starts at 4 o'clock on Friday?
4:30 this
4:30.
Friday, Connie Bean.
Yep, 4:30 to 7 p.m., Connie Bean Center, Friday, April 10th, which is this Friday for those of us who are in a fog and don't know what day it is. There's going to be critters and reptiles and buses and toilets and music and drinks, and everyone should come.
Anything under miscellaneous? Councilor Tabor.
This Wednesday, the Energy Advisory Committee meets, and our first item will be hearing back from our consultant on feasibility of a solar array on Jones Avenue. So if anybody wants to tune in for that, we should get a good presentation.
Councilor Tabor. Councilor Cook.
And I just wanted to reiterate for Portsmouth that if you haven't been downtown to check out all the poetry, there are 50-plus poems in windows and storefronts all over the city. When you find a poem, you can scan the QR code and find out where the others are, or you can treat it as a scavenger hunt, running around trying to find all the poems in town. But they will be up for the month of April.
Poetry Month. Excellent. All right. I'd wait a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good night, Portsmouth.